Martin Luther King Jr. was born on January 15, 1929 in Atlanta, Georgia, to Reverend Martin Luther King Sr. and Alberta Williams King. Growing up in the historically black neighborhood of Sweet Auburn, Atlanta, young Martin experienced the stark disparity between the warmth of his family life and the pervasive racial discrimination of the time. His parents were strong advocates for civil rights and social justice, instilling in him the values of compassion, equality, and the importance of standing up against injustice. As a child, Martin was surrounded by the African American church community, where his father served as a Baptist minister. The church played a central role in his upbringing, and its teachings inspired his future career as a pastor and civil rights leader. Young Martin began his formal education at Yonge Street Elementary School, a racially segregated institution. King's academic talents were evident early on, and he excelled in his studies. At the age of 15, he entered Booker T. Washington High School, a prestigious all-black school in Atlanta. During his time there, he became known for his exceptional oratory skills and intellectual curiosity. In 1944, at the age of 15, King entered Morehouse College, a historically black men's college in Atlanta. His decision to attend Morehouse was influenced by his father, who was an alumnus, as well as his admiration for the college's president, Dr. Benjamin Mays. At Morehouse, King continued to excel academically and immersed himself in campus life. Morehouse College had a profound impact on King's intellectual and spiritual development. It was at Morehouse that he began to grapple with the issues of racial injustice and discrimination. Under the mentorship of Dr. Mays, he was exposed to the teachings of Gandhi and other prominent philosophers, which would later inspire his commitment to nonviolent activism. During his time at Morehouse, King was deeply involved in extracurricular activities, including the debate team, student newspaper, and student government. He also joined the Alpha Phi Alpha fraternity, where he further developed his leadership skills. After graduating from Morehouse College in 1948 with a Bachelor of Arts, King continued his education at a theological seminary in Chester, Pennsylvania. King's time there exposed him to diverse religious and philosophical perspectives, further shaping his understanding of social justice and moral principles. King was mentored by theologians and scholars who encouraged his intellectual growth and commitment to social justice. He excelled in his studies, earning top honors and graduating as class valedictorian in 1951 with a Bachelor of Divinity degree. After completing his seminary education, King pursued further studies at Boston University's School of Theology. He enrolled in a doctoral program and began his research on systematic theology. Under the guidance of prominent theologian and philosopher Dr. Edgar S. Brightman, King's doctoral studies explored ethical and philosophical concepts related to justice and morality. In 1955, King completed his doctoral dissertation and received his Doctor of Philosophy degree from Boston University. In June of 1953, he married Coretta Scott in Marion, Alabama. Coretta Scott was an accomplished singer and activist in her own right. They had 4 children together, and Coretta became a devoted partner and supporter of Dr. King's civil rights work throughout their marriage. On December 1, 1955, an African-American woman named Rosa Parks refused to give up her seat to a white passenger on a segregated bus in Montgomery, Alabama. This incident sparked the Montgomery bus boycott, and Dr. King was chosen to lead the movement. The boycott lasted for 381 days, during which African Americans boycotted public buses, demanding an end to racial segregation on public transportation. Dr. King played a pivotal role in establishing the Montgomery Improvement Association to coordinate the boycott efforts, delivering inspiring speeches and advocating for nonviolent resistance as the core principle of their movement. Together with other civil rights activists, Dr. King founded the SCLC, an organization dedicated to advancing civil rights through nonviolent means. He became its first president, and the SCLC played a crucial role in organizing peaceful protests and advocating for change. His influence extended to the sit-in protests, where African American students peacefully protested segregation in restaurants and other public places. This movement spread across the South and led to the establishment of the Sit-ins and Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, which became a vital force in the civil rights struggle. One of the most impactful moments in King's activism was the Birmingham Campaign in 1963. This nonviolent protest aimed to end segregation in one of America's most racially divided cities. The use of violent police tactics against peaceful protesters, including children, drew national attention and public sympathy to the cause. On August the 28th of the same year, Dr. King delivered his iconic "I Have a Dream" speech during the March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom. His passionate vision of a racially harmonious America resonated deeply with the crowd and viewers nationwide, becoming one of the most celebrated speeches in American history. His tireless efforts and the collective work of civil rights activists contributed significantly to the passing of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. This landmark legislation outlawed racial segregation in public places and prohibited employment discrimination based on race, color, religion, sex, or national origin. In a pivotal moment for voting rights, Dr. King led the Selma to Montgomery March in 1965 to demand equal voting rights for African Americans. The marchers faced violent opposition as they crossed the Edmund Pettus Bridge, but they persisted, leading to the passage of the Voting Rights Act later that year. In his final years, Dr. King shifted his focus to address poverty and economic inequality. He organized the Poor People's Campaign, which sought to address economic injustice and improve living conditions for all marginalized communities. Tragically, on April 4, 1968, Dr. Martin Luther King was assassinated on the balcony of the Lorraine Motel in Memphis, Tennessee. His assassin, James Earl Ray, was a convicted felon who was apprehended 2 months later in London Heathrow Airport after an international manhunt. Martin Luther King's untimely death shook the nation, but his legacy lives on. His impact on the civil rights movement and American society as a whole is immeasurable. Today, Dr. Martin Luther King is celebrated as a symbol of hope, resilience, and the power of peaceful activism to bring about lasting change.